It's hard to understand why a loving God would allow such heartbreak. You loved them. You prayed for them. You gave them your loyalty, your trust, your time, your everything. And in return, they broke you. They used you. They walked away as if you never mattered. And all the while, heaven seems silent. Well, what if the pain was never meant to destroy you, but to prepare you? What if the betrayal wasn't the end of your story, but the beginning of something divine? God never wastes pain, and he never permits something to touch your life without a purpose behind it. The wounds they caused are the very wounds God will use to usher you into your destiny. You might not see it now, but there will come a time when you look back on this pain and say, "Thank you, Lord," not because the hurt was good, but because the outcome was greater than the suffering. What they meant for evil, God is already turning into something good. He's rewriting the script of your life, not with ink, but with tears that will become testimonies. Some people had to hurt you so you would see their true character. You were so loyal, so committed that you would have never walked away, but God knew they couldn't go where you're going. He saw what you couldn't see. He heard the conversations behind closed doors. He knew what would have happened if you stayed connected to what was slowly destroying you. So he allowed the hurt not to break you, but to release you. And when you look back, you'll realize it was a divine disconnection, a sacred separation. God was not punishing you. He was protecting you. He didn't let them leave because he wanted you to suffer. He let them go because he wanted you to grow. The pain pushed you into his arms. It pulled you into prayer. It awakened something inside you that comfort never could. God uses pain as a teacher, as a sculptor, as a refiner. The fire you went through didn't destroy you. It purified you. You are stronger now, wiser, more discerning. Your heart may have scars, but those scars are proof that you survived what was sent to kill you. And not just survived, you're being shaped into someone who will carry a purpose bigger than the betrayal. Even Jesus was betrayed. He was sold out by someone who sat at his table, someone he loved, someone he taught. Yet the betrayal didn't cancel his calling. It fulfilled it. And the same God who raised him after the pain will raise you too. Your resurrection is coming. Your restoration is on the way. And what you thought was a setback is really a setup for something greater. You're not going to stay broken. You're going to rise with wisdom, strength, and purpose. The very thing that made you cry will be the thing that causes others to be healed through your story. And yes, forgiveness will be part of that story. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve to move forward without the weight of bitterness chaining you to your past. Forgiveness is not about excusing what they did. It's about refusing to let it control you anymore. The next time you ask, "Why did God let them hurt me?" remember this. It wasn't to break you. It was to build you. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning. What looked like the death of something precious was actually the birth of something powerful. A new you, a stronger you, a you that walks with grace and stands in truth. You're not who you were before the pain. You're deeper now. You know how to pray. You know how to stand. You've learned how to let go. You've discovered who's really for you. And most of all, you've seen that God will never leave you, no matter who else does. So lift your head, wipe your tears, breathe again, love again, hope again, trust again, because what's ahead of you is far greater than what's behind you. And this time it won't end in heartbreak. It will end in glory. God let them hurt you, not to destroy you, but to deliver you. Not to curse you, but to call you. Not to end you, but to equip you. Because what they meant for evil, he's already turning for good. Sometimes we go through seasons of deep pain, and in those moments it can feel like God has turned his back on us. The silence is deafening. The heartbreak feels unbearable. The betrayal cuts deeper than words can express. And we wonder, if God really loves me, why would he let this happen? It's a question asked in the middle of tears, whispered late at night when no one else is watching. But the truth is, God never left you. And he saw every tear, heard every cry, and was present in every storm. The hurt you experienced wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. You see, we often mistake hardship for abandonment, but the two are not the same. God doesn't abandon his children. In fact, it's in the moments of brokenness that he is closest. He doesn't cause evil to happen, but he allows certain trials to shape us into who we're meant to become. Not because he delights in our suffering, but because he sees what we cannot. He knows what lies ahead. He knows the strength it'll need, the faith that must be tested, the wisdom that only pain can produce. There are things inside of you that only adversity can awaken. Comfort doesn't build warriors, ease doesn't forge character, and pleasure doesn't cultivate spiritual depth. God allows certain experiences to press us, not to crush us, but to extract something pure and powerful. It's in the pressing that oil comes forth. It's in the fire that gold is refined, and it's in the storm that roots grow deeper. It's what feels like destruction is often divine development. Think about the most powerful people of faith. None of them walked an easy road. Every single one had a season of deep pain. Joseph was betrayed and imprisoned. David was hunted and humiliated. Esther faced death. Paul was beaten and shipwrecked, and even Jesus suffered beyond human understanding. Their pain wasn't a sign of God's disapproval. It was the path to their divine assignment. And it's the same with you. The heartbreak you faced, the rejection you endured, the confusion you battled, it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to draw you closer to God, to strip away everything superficial and to build something unshakable in your soul. You're not weaker because of the pain. You're stronger. You've learned how to stand when everything is falling. You've discovered who God really is, not just in blessing, but in brokenness. And that kind of faith, deep, tested, refined, is the kind of faith that moves mountains. So no, God didn't abandon you. He allowed the pain because he saw what it would produce in you. He knew the tears would water the seeds of your calling. He knew the betrayal would separate you from what couldn't go into your future. He knew the silence would lead you to seek him more deeply. And now, on the other side of the pain, you will rise, not with bitterness, but with purpose. Because the pain didn't come to punish, it came to prepare you for glory. Betrayal is one of the most painful experiences a person can go through, not just because of what was done, but because of who did it. It's one thing to be attacked by an enemy. It's another to be wounded by someone you loved, trusted, and stood beside. The closer they were, the deeper the wound. And in that hurt, confusion rises. Why would they do this to me? What did I do to deserve this? You may have questioned your own worth. You may have blamed yourself. But what if the betrayal wasn't just a tragedy? It was a revelation. Some people had to hurt you, not because you deserved pain, but because their actions exposed the truth you refused to see. You loved them too deeply. You believed in them too blindly. You made excuses for the red flags, silenced your intuition, and kept giving your energy to someone who was quietly draining your soul. God saw what you couldn't. He heard the conversations you weren't part of. He witnessed the dishonor you were too loyal to detect. And so he allowed their betrayal not to break you, but to awaken you. You would have never walked away on your own. You cared too much. You were too committed to the idea of what they could be rather than accepting who they actually were, so God had to show you. And sometimes the only way to open your eyes is to let your heart break, not because God is cruel, but because he is merciful. Because he loves you too much to let you stay connected to someone who was blocking your blessing. What looked like rejection was divine redirection. That person, that friendship, that relationship, it had expired, but you were holding on out of fear, out of hope, out of habit. And so God allowed a moment of betrayal to sever the tie you wouldn't cut yourself. He didn't want you to stay where you were being tolerated when he was trying to take you somewhere you would be celebrated. That betrayal wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your freedom. Now you can see clearly. You see their true colors. You see their patterns. You see that what you called love was often manipulation, one-sided effort, or emotional dependency. It hurts, but it's necessary because you cannot heal from what you won't admit. And you cannot move forward if you're tied to the weight of what God has already removed. Let go of the illusion. Let go of the what ifs. Trust that God knows what he's doing. What was taken from you wasn't a loss, it was a rescue. You didn't lose a real friend, a true partner, or a God-ordained connection. You lost what was pretending to be those things. And though it broke your heart, it freed your soul. The betrayal revealed what you couldn't see, and now God can reveal what he's been trying to show you all along, who you are, what you deserve, and where he's taking you next. Pain is a powerful force. It's not just something we endure. It's something that can transform us if we allow it. It has a way of pushing us beyond our comfort zones, beyond our limits, and into places we might never have chosen to go on our own. When we're comfortable, it's easy to forget the urgency of our calling. It's easy to drift through life, taking blessings for granted and coasting along. But when pain enters the scene, everything changes. Suddenly you can't ignore the deep ache in your heart, the longing for purpose, and the cry for something more. God uses pain to awaken our calling in a way that comfort could never achieve. It's often in the most painful moments that we begin to ask the hard questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? When life is easy, we might not seek the answers to those questions as fervently. But when heartbreak strikes, when everything we've known is shaken, it's as if the soul is stirred awake from its slumber. The pain becomes a catalyst, not for despair, but for discovery. Think about how prayer changes when you're in pain. In the face of hardship, we don't just pray for things anymore. We pray for peace, for guidance, for strength to endure. We don't just talk to God as if he's someone we can call on when we need something. We lean into him, desperate for his presence, longing to hear his voice, seeking his will. Pain strips away the distractions of life and drives us to the feet of our Savior in a way that comfort never could. The pain you went through didn't push you away from God, it pushed you toward him. It deepened your faith, expanded your dependence on his strength, and increased your awareness of his presence. In those quiet moments when everything around you was falling apart, you began to understand that God was the only constant in your life. Your pain became the doorway to a deeper connection with him. But even beyond drawing you closer to God, pain awakens something inside you that you didn't even know was there. You begin to see strengths you never realized you had. You tap into a resilience that only hardship can reveal. The fear that once held you back begins to dissipate as you realize that you've already survived what you thought would destroy you. And in surviving, you've discovered a fire within, a drive, a passion, and a sense of purpose that no longer can be ignored. Pain also forces you to confront yourself. You can no longer live in denial or distraction when life is pushing you to your limits. You have to face your own weaknesses, your fears, your dreams, and your unhealed wounds. But this is where growth happens. You can't reach the fullness of your calling without first dealing with the parts of yourself that need healing and transformation. God allowed the pain to expose those areas so that he could heal you and prepare you to walk in your divine purpose. What seemed like an obstacle became an opportunity, a way for God to refine you, reshape your heart, and realign you with the purpose he created you for. You may have entered the season of pain, feeling lost, confused, and broken, but you're leaving it with a newfound clarity about who you are and what you're called to do. Your calling isn't just a distant dream anymore. It's something you feel deep in your bones, something that has been awakened within you through the fire of your trial. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it to transform us, to prepare us, and to push us toward the purpose he has set before us. The heartbreak you endured didn't derail your destiny. It pushed you further along the path God had always intended for you. And now you're not just walking toward your calling, you're running with the strength, the faith, and the wisdom that only pain can teach. Your pain has awakened something inside of you, a purpose that can no longer be ignored, a faith that can no longer be shaken, and a determination to live a life that reflects the depth of the lessons you've learned. You were never meant to remain where you were. God allowed the pain to move you, to grow you, and to launch you into the fullness of your calling. What you've been through has made you who you are meant to be. Your scars are not signs of weakness, but marks of victory. They may have come from wounds that once seemed unbearable, from moments where you didn't think you'd make it through, but now those same scars are proof that you survived, that you overcame, and that you are stronger than you ever knew. The pain you endured, the suffering you thought would break you, has now become a testimony of God's faithfulness. It is no longer just your story. It's a light to guide someone else through the darkness. We often see our scars as reminders of past hurt. We hide them, cover them, or wish they would disappear. But God sees them differently. He doesn't see your scars as a weakness or something to be ashamed of. He sees them as powerful tools in his hands. Your story, the one you thought was too painful to share, is the very story that will reach someone else who feels hopeless. The journey you've walked, the struggles you've faced, and the battles you've fought are not just for you. They are for someone else's healing. There are people in the world who are walking through the very same things you've walked through. They may be struggling with heartbreak, rejection, failure, or loss. They may be feeling hopeless, alone, and uncertain of how to move forward, and they are looking for someone who can understand them, someone who can tell them that it's possible to survive, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Your scars can be the bridge that connects them to hope. Imagine if someone had never shared their story with you when you were in your darkest place. What if no one had reached out to you with their testimony of survival, of redemption, of how they made it through the fire? Would you have believed that there was hope? Would you have known that God could use your pain for a purpose? The truth is, you never know how powerful your testimony can be until you share it. Your healing is not just for you. It is meant to bring healing to others. When you speak about the pain you've overcome, You're not just recounting a sad chapter in your life. You are showing someone else that they can make it through too. When you share how God restored you, how he pulled you out of the darkness, you are shining a light on the path for someone else to follow. Your testimony is a living proof that God's grace is greater than any struggle, that his love is more powerful than any pain. But here's the beauty of it. The more you share, the more you heal. Each time you open up about your scars, you take away the shame that once held you captive. You give your pain a purpose, and you allow God to use it for his glory. The healing that you've experienced becomes a cycle. God heals you, you share that healing with others, and in doing so, you open the door for others to experience healing too. In a world full of people who are hurting and broken, your scars become a beacon of hope. They remind others that they are not alone, that healing is possible, and that God can turn their pain into purpose. You may have thought your scars were just reminders of your suffering, but in God's hands, they are testimonies of his power, his restoration, and his love. So don't hide your scars. Don't be afraid to share your story, no matter how painful it may seem. Your testimony is someone else's breakthrough. Your scars are a healing balm to someone else's wounded soul. Your pain, once a heavy burden, has now become a weapon of victory that you can wield to bring others into the light of God's healing. Remember, your story isn't just for you. It's for someone else in the dark. Your journey, the lessons you've learned, the pain you've survived, all of it is a light meant to guide others on their own path to healing. The very scars that once marked your suffering will now become the key to someone else's freedom. Forgiveness is one of the most difficult yet most powerful acts you can choose in your life. It's not something that comes easily, especially when the pain runs deep and the wounds feel fresh. When someone hurts you, it feels impossible to let go of the anger, the hurt, and the resentment. In your mind, forgiving them might seem like you're excusing their actions, letting them off the hook, or condoning what they did. But the truth is, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. It's an act of freedom, not a favor for the person who wronged you. When you hold on to unforgiveness, you're not hurting the other person. You're chaining yourself to the past. And with each moment you carry that bitterness, you allow it to control your heart, your thoughts, and even your future. The pain they cause you doesn't just remain in the past. It lives on in your heart and mind, poisoning your peace and blocking your ability to move forward. You think you're punishing them by holding on to that anger, but what you're really doing is imprisoning yourself in a cell of bitterness and resentment. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what was done to you is okay. It doesn't erase the hurt or make the wrong right. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget what happened or pretend it didn't matter. It means you choose to release the power that the offense has over you. You choose to no longer let the pain dictate your life. You're letting go of the emotional burden, and in doing so, you free yourself. Imagine carrying a heavy weight with you every day. It gets harder and harder to walk, to breathe, to live freely. But the moment you choose forgiveness, it's as if you put down that weight. You no longer have to carry the anger, the disappointment, the sense of betrayal. You've decided that the pain will no longer define you. You are not going to let what happened to you become a prison for your future. You're stepping into the freedom that God has already provided for you. Forgiveness allows you to move forward with your life. It opens up the possibility of healing. Holding on to bitterness keeps you stuck in the past, and as long as you remain there, you cannot grow into the person God created you to be. You cannot experience the fullness of his peace and joy when your heart is bound by resentment. But when you forgive, you release yourself from those chains. You break free from the weight of the past and step into a new life of freedom, peace, and joy. This is why forgiveness is one of the most important steps in healing. It's the key to unlocking the door to your own peace. It's the release you need to move forward, to heal, and to experience the fullness of life that God desires for you. Forgiveness allows you to take your power back. You're no longer giving the person who hurt you control over your heart and mind. You're choosing peace. You're choosing healing. You're choosing to trust God with the pain, knowing that he will restore what was lost and heal what was broken. Forgiveness also frees you to love again. Bitterness and unforgiveness create walls around your heart, walls that prevent you from connecting with others in the way you were meant to. When you forgive, you tear down those walls. You stop living in fear of being hurt again, and you open your heart to love, to trust, and to experience the relationships that God has for you. It's a fresh start, not only for your own heart, but for every relationship you will have going forward. Forgiveness is not an easy choice, but it is a necessary one. It's not about excusing the wrongs done to you. It's about choosing freedom. It's about choosing peace. It's about refusing to let bitterness control your life any longer. Forgiving those who hurt you doesn't release them from the consequences of their actions, but it does release you from the chains of unforgiveness. It allows you to walk in the freedom that God has for you, unburdened and unshackled by the weight of the past. So let go of the bitterness. Let go of the anger. Let go of the desire for revenge. Choose forgiveness. It will free you. It will heal you. And it will open the door to the peace and joy that God has waiting for you. The pain you've endured, the struggles you've faced, and the suffering you've carried were never meant to define your story. What you've walked through may feel like the end at times, like the final chapter of a heartbreaking novel, but I want to remind you that this is not the end. It is the beginning of something far greater. What you are experiencing now is a chapter in the journey, not the last one. God is not finished with you yet, and what he has in store for you will exceed all the pain you've endured. Too often in the midst of pain, we forget that God's plan is still unfolding. We become so focused on our current struggles that we fail to see the bigger picture. But the suffering you've experienced is not where God is leaving you. It is the catalyst for what is coming next. It is the soil in which your glory will grow. The resurrection, the restoration, and the divine joy you long for are closer than you think. Think about the story of the resurrection of Jesus. It looked like all hope was lost when he was crucified. The disciples were devastated. Their hearts were broken. They had witnessed the cruel end of the man they believed was their Savior. But 3 days later, everything changed. The story didn't end in death. It began in resurrection. What looked like a tragic defeat became the foundation for eternal victory. And just like that, what looks like defeat in your life is actually the beginning of something far more powerful. God uses the darkest moments to bring about the greatest comebacks. You may feel as if the weight of the world is on your shoulders right now, that everything around you is falling apart, but this is not your final chapter. God has a plan that is far greater than what you can see with your eyes. Your suffering is not the end of your story. It is the preparation for your glory. God is in the process of restoring what the enemy tried to steal from you, resurrecting what was once dead and bringing you into a place of divine joy that you never thought possible. The pain you've gone through is meant to break you, to cause you to doubt, to cause you to question whether God truly has a plan for you. But God is turning it around. What the enemy meant for evil, God is already turning for good. He is using the very things that tried to destroy you to elevate you, to shape you, and to prepare you for the blessings He has in store. Your tears are watering the seeds of your future. Your struggles are strengthening your faith and building your character. In the Bible, Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Yet through it all, God was preparing him for a greater purpose. When Joseph finally rose to power in Egypt, he could look back and say, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. God used every moment of his suffering to elevate him and to position him to fulfill his purpose. And just like Joseph, you too will see the day when you can look back and say that what you've gone through wasn't in vain. God has been using it to prepare you for something greater. This isn't the end. The suffering you've experienced was the groundwork for something extraordinary. Restoration is coming. Resurrection is coming. Divine joy is coming. God's timing is perfect. And while it may feel like the darkest hour, He is working behind the scenes to bring you into the light. He is already turning things around for your good, and the joy and glory that will come from this season will far surpass anything you can imagine. You are not defined by your pain, but by the glory that is to come. The suffering you've endured is part of a greater story, one where God's faithfulness, goodness, and power are made evident in your life. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with restoration, resurrection, and divine joy. So hold on, because what God has for you is greater than anything you've yet experienced.